Welcome to the Real Wine Show. This is a bonus extra episode featuring a conversation led by Taylor Johnson, sommelier at the Dixboro Project in Ann Arbor. It's an outtake from our recording of Season 2, Episode 4. Do enjoy.
While you folks are assessing that too, one of the things that I kept coming up with in regards to the, and I wish I had talked about this, Taylor is in the audience here. She was on the previous episode. And maybe we can get her on the mic here. I don't know. Because I just want to talk about this. And if it's just a quick, short thing while they're assessing the wine. So I'll address this to you specifically, Taylor. I'm wondering, like, with all these new varieties coming into classic appellations, how will, say, the Court of Master Sommeliers respond? How do you think to, like, because, you know, they're very concerned, of course, like with particular taste, you know, flavor profiles in the wines. And they say a wine from here tastes like this. And it kind of reminded me of like the whole natural wine movement. We're getting a bunch of new flavors in the wine. And they seem like they had a little hard time kind of adapting to that. And so now I'm wondering, like, well, when they start, you know, we start seeing, Caladoc or whatever showing up in our Bordeaux, what does that look like? I mean, how does the CMS process, and we can talk about this generally too. I'd be happy to step away from the mic so that, would you do that? Yeah, I mean, would Taylor come over? Yeah. Cool. Are you guys? Is that something that's of interest to you guys?
I was deep into this, so I don't even know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Sure.
Okay.
We,
so
we definitely want to talk to Taylor.
Yeah. Okay. Right on. So I'm gonna vacate the mic here and let you know what we're talking about here. So if you would address that, that'd be great.
It's a really good prompt.
Yeah, I'm very curious about it. So I want to know.
All right, so I think that's a great question and a great thought. You know, having tested through the court, aspiring to continue to test through the court, training staff, also in that skill set of being very traditional in how we're approaching certain wine expressions, grapes, and regions. For me, it really comes down to provenance, right? Is if you think about being a sommelier versus a wine professional in other areas of the industry, you know, we are stewards for the beverage. It's very important that we, I think, lean into the classic expressions so that, and we kind of talked about it on the previous panel about having certain grape varietals, again, and wines that are expressing a certain way so that even as a professional, if you're opening up a bottle and a consumer has a question about its quality or drinkability or flaws, even furthermore, that you can go into that codex of theory and understand why something is drinking and tasting and smelling the way that it does. Now, to that point, I think it's inherent that the difficulties that winemakers see, even for sommeliers, for us to be able to get consumers comfortable with trying new varietals and regions that perhaps they've never experienced. So quality gets mixed in, I think, with really what's also very important is pleasure, right? Assessing a wine, if it's quality, is not always going to be like, it might not be for me. Or, you know, Marshall, maybe we're drinking something together and I'm like, hey, it's not my cup of tea and you absolutely love it. There's nothing wrong with the wine and there's nothing wrong with either of us. I think, you know, tying that back to the court, it's how to deductively taste in order to ask those questions and to continue to have wine as a beverage of provenance and legacy, where you're giving credit to the generations that have come before to create the beverage that is in front of us.
Yeah, makes total sense.
I see Marshall nodding his head. Thoughts? Because I think the court can be, I don't know, for instance, I have a bit of a curiosity as to why it's taken so long for Michigan to be represented as a region that legitimately makes wine, because we're not included in the court yet. This year was the first year that we were included in Wine Folly, which I think is amazing and just so exciting. And even going out to Paso Robles back in January, you know, there was someone, this lovely participant that had a t-shirt that was like, oh, the Finger Lakes in Texas and Idaho. I'm like, well, where's Michigan? Like, you know, Michigan's making wine too. And she had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's
Yeah, Idaho.
Idaho. Sure.
Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho.
Snake River. Utah.
Supposedly there's some good wine coming out of there. So
Yeah.
I just spent some time a couple weeks ago actually in Virginia and working with those wineries. Barbersville, how impressive. Luca, the
I was
winemaker
there 40 years ago.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
Marshall, that wine
It's
is
great.
beautiful.
I was drinking Chardonnay in the guy's living room back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Who is this again?
Barbersville.
Barbersville.
Yeah, Barbersville in Monticello. So
Monticello.
Thomas Jefferson built the winery, and their flagship wine, which is the Octagon, is a reference to the fact that Thomas Jefferson would put an octagon into all of his the core of the architecture of his buildings that he would build. And I think it's not a surprise to many that study wine that he has quite a lot to say, or had a lot to say about wine and what he liked to drink. But the Nebbiolo they're making up there is beautiful. The Vermentino, I'm hoping to pour by the glass come wintertime. And then there's another estate I was really impressed with, which is King Family Vineyards. And they're not available in Michigan yet, but again, fingers crossed that we'll get them soon. But just so impressive. And there's a lot of passion. And I think it was, encouraging to them, but so encouraging to me as a Michigan wine professional and enthusiast, that they too are struggling with trying to turn the consumer mindset from people that maybe had a Virginia wine 20 or 30 years ago, and they don't know, they haven't opened themselves back up to tasting these wines with the same amount of curiosity because they don't know what to expect.
I think part of the part of the situation is that Virginia, the New York Finger Lakes, even Long Island are a little better known because they're closer to a major population center, and it's close enough that people can venture out from New York and DC and visit these places and get some publicity. Michigan's close to Chicago. We get a lot of Chicago visitors on the west side of Michigan, but I don't know how much they move the market. But yeah, wine is made in every state. Who gets the publicity? I know Colorado's doing some big stuff, and of course Texas is really doing some big stuff. They at least have the Texas Sommelier Association that's really moving the markets there. But
with regards to sommelier certifications and things, how do you think how are they really going to adapt? Like, how do they bring those flavors? What's the process for bringing in new flavor profiles into the testing, the testing paradigm, the testing model, right?
To speak to that, I think that there's something important to be said in any craft about learning the basics really well. You want to learn how to do your craft well. You go with, again, the provenance. You go with what is known. So bringing in new varietals, I think, until they're able to be out in the market and have professionals or even just open forum like this to talk about them. Where is their place? Why are they being made? As climate becomes more of the center of the topic of why winemakers are making the decisions to pull up certain grape varietals and plant new things, the court ultimately is, I think, responsible for ushering in the next generations to carry this craft into hospitality and into the consumer mindset as something that's important and a part of enjoying life.
So they have to find a way.
They have to find a way, but I think it's, if I were going for my certified in this date, like let's just say even 10 years from now, I would be a little scared because if you're thinking about how many options would be, because when you get your grid, your original base of like, okay, these are your testable varietals, it is a compass. It's a compass for you to start to approach deductive tasting, which again, ultimately I think is not about being right or wrong. Obviously you want to be as right as possible in your assessments, but is the wine true to its typicity and the quality of the producer that the generations before have made? So I look at that as more of a sense of quality control and how we're educating the new generations of sommeliers and wine professionals, which, inherently it has to include new regions and varietals.
And I think that they just have these standards, that these are the standards that you can judge other wines against and measure how much do they deviate from the standard. Are they completely different flavor, or are they just slightly different aspects?
This is the problem, though, right? I mean, if the
The-
standard is no longer
It's going to shift. The standard's moving.
it's not the
Right?
same line
So
or go,
Well, I know they've already.
Well, exactly. Especially,
it's like,
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
start adding in-
stuff's way riper, and you know,
yeah, and the varieties.
the varieties are going to be different.
yeah,
So
how do you judge Bordeaux Blanc when there's Albarino in it?
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna taste different than Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc.
And
right?
to their
well, that
current-
would be a really dry for terroir, right?
Yeah.
Then you're like, if you could still tell,
Yeah.
then it's like, oh,
And
That's-
how cool would that be?
that
if that's
would
where
be
the pendulum
amazing,
swing
right?
is. It's not.
you're like, oh shit, it doesn't matter what they plant there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 And
do
one-
you still get the fingerprint of the
Yeah.
region
Does
and
it
the wine
still
grower?
drink like Bordeaux, red or white? Yeah.
Provenance, right?
One change that the court
Correct.
has made is that they no longer refer to Old World versus New World. That language is dropped from their discussions, and I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but yeah, it's moving in that direction.
All right. Well, yeah, let me say for sure, thank you, Taylor, for leading that little segment of the discussion, that little bonus piece there. It's interesting. We could do a whole nother little discussion on that on its own.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back in for some salute.
Thank you.
Once again, special thanks to Taylor Johnson for the impromptu discussion with Marshall Wehr, Dave Landrum, and Cody Formisano. See you all next time.